Picture this. It's the 1960s, the golden age of jet travel. Airlines are competing to fly faster, higher, and more luxurious than ever before. Enter the Convair 990 Coronado, an aircraft designed to outspace the competition and redefine commercial aviation. But instead of soaring to success, it became one of the biggest commercial flops in aviation history. So, what happened? Let's dive into the story of the Convair 990, one of the fastest and the most fascinating jetliners ever built. The story of the Convair 990 begins in the late 1950s, a time when jet travel was still in its infancy. Airlines were eager to embrace the speed and efficiency of jet aircrafts, and manufacturers were racing to meet the demand. Convair, a relatively small player at the time compared to Boeing or Douglas, saw an opportunity to carve out a place by building the fastest jetliner in the sky. The Convair 990 made its maiden flight on January 24th, 1961, and it immediately turned heads with its sleek design and impressive speed, and it seemed like the future of air travel. But as we'll see, the road ahead wasn't smooth. One of the most notable features of the Convair 990 was its anti-shock bodies, the bulges on the wing designed to reduce drag and increase speed. But how exactly did it work? To understand this, we need to dive into the physics of flight and aerodynamics. So, at its core, flight is all about balancing four forces: lift, weight, thrust, and drag. Lift is generated by the wings as air flows around them, while drag is the resistance the plane faces as it moves through the air. For an aircraft to fly efficiently, it needs to maximize the lift and minimize the drag, and that's where the Convair 990's anti-shock bodies came in. At high speeds, something interesting happens, and as air flows over the wings, it accelerates. If the plane is fast enough, the airflow can reach supersonic speeds in certain areas, even if the plane itself isn't breaking the sound barrier. Now, this creates shock waves, a sudden change in pressure and density that disrupts the smooth flow of air. Now, these shock waves increase drag and a phenomenon known as a wave drag. Of course, wave drag is a major problem for fast aircrafts because it can significantly reduce efficiency and speed. To combat this, Convair engineers came up with a clever solution: the anti-shock bodies. Now, these bulges on the wings were strategically placed to weaken the shock wave and smooth out the airflow. So here's how it worked. The anti-shock bodies altered the shape of the wing, changing how air flowed over it, and by doing this, they reduced the intensity of the shock waves and minimized the drag they caused. So think of it like using a spoiler on a race car. It's all about controlling the airflow and, of course, improving the performance. But the anti-shock bodies weren't the only thing helping the 990 achieve its impressive speed. The plane was powered by four General Electric CJ805 turbo engines, which were derived from military designs, and these engines were known for their reliability and power, generating enough thrust to push the 990 to its top speed. Thanks to this, the Convair 990 could reach a cruising speed of around 600 miles per hour, faster than its competitors like the Boeing 707, as we talked about in the previous video, and the Douglas DC-8. Despite its advanced technology and impressive speed, the Convair 990 ultimately failed to capture the market. So, what went wrong? First, the 990's fuel efficiency was a major issue. Its powerful engines burned through fuel at a much higher rate than the Boeing 707 or the Douglas DC-8, making it much more expensive to operate. Airlines were starting to prioritize cost savings over raw speed, and the 990s just couldn't compete. And second, the 990's capacity was much smaller than its competitors. While it was fast, it couldn't carry as much passengers, which made it less profitable for airlines. In an industry where every seat counts, this was a huge disadvantage. And finally, Convair struggled to sell the 990. Only 37 units were ever built compared to the hundreds of Boeing 707s and DC-8s. And without economies of scale, the 990 became even more expensive to produce and maintain. So in the end, the Convair 990 was just a victim of bad timing and tough competition. While it was a technological marvel, it just couldn't overcome the economic realities of the aviation industry at the time. By the late 70s, the Convair 990 was phased out of commercial service. But its story didn't end there. Some aircraft found new life as charter planes, flying sport teams, and celebrities. Others, like NASA's modified 990, became flying laboratories for aeronautical research. Today, a few Convair 990s are preserved in museums, serving as a reminder of this ambitious but ultimately underappreciated aircraft. So after all that, why did the Convair 990 fail? The answer comes down to three things: efficiency, economics, and competition. First, let's talk about efficiency, or rather, the lack of it. The CV990 was built for speed, but the speed came at a huge cost: fuel consumption. While its General Electric engines were powerful, they consumed a ton of gas, and airlines at the time wanted range and fuel savings, not a slightly faster ride. Then there was the economics. Convair promised airlines a game-changing jet, but in reality, the CV990 couldn't meet its own performance target. It was supposed to cruise at 620 miles per hour, yet real-world operations saw speeds closer to its competitors, without any of the fuel savings, of course. And worse yet, it carried fewer passengers than the plane, let's say the 707, meaning airlines made less money per flight. And the result? Airlines just weren't interested. Finally, perhaps the biggest killer was competition. Boeing and Douglas already had a reliable and efficient jets in service. The 707 and the DC-8 weren't just successful, they defined the industry standard. Convair, on the other hand, was playing catch up. And in aviation, being a little faster doesn't matter if you're a lot more expensive to operate. In the end, Convair only built 37 of these jets, and by the early 80s, they were all retired from passenger service. The CV990 was a marvel of engineering, but a failure in airline business. It proved that speed alone isn't enough. You have to balance performance with practicality. So what do you think? Was the Convair 990 a visionary jet ahead of its time, or was it doomed from the start? Thank you so much for watching this video, and I'll catch you up on the next one. Peace.